good morning, everybody. This is Robin Ayub from the Localization Fireside chat, and welcome for another episode. Today is Friday, March the 8th, and I'm honored and have the pleasure to have with me Elena Petrova from Ad-Astra. And welcome, Elena, to the show. Welcome to the recording today, and I really appreciate having you with me this morning for our interesting conversation. It's promising to be an interesting conversation. You and I have talked about the topic that we're going to be talking about today, which is on everybody's mind. I won't reveal it yet, but we'll get to that. Elena is the founder and CEO of Ad-Astra. She had quite the journey, successful journey, if I may add, in her career in the localization industry, starting from being an interpreter onward to founding her own company, held variety of various positions in the industry, from doing actual translation to business development, etc. And Ad-Astra, if I may add, from what I've heard, is a very successful company in the field. I'll let Elena talk a little bit about that. So Elena, as we say on this channel, welcome first. And we say, everybody's got a story, a very interesting story. And when I read your story, that has to be ranked one of the most interesting story. Moving between countries, developing your career in a different country, starting a life in a new country. Would you mind tell us your story, your localization story?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure. I looked through quite a few episodes and have been always excited to come here. Thank you for having me. Um, yeah, I think that my story has so many different dots, and I was thinking about how I'm going to be telling it because it's usually when I get together with my friends, it's just sort of like different episodes and then pulling them together. To be completely honest with you, I think my story goes back to when I was 5 years old because I always liked traveling. I think all my first books when I was a kid was all about travels in different countries because growing up back in former Soviet Union, we couldn't leave, we couldn't travel. Communication was very limited, and I think it all started back then. But I wasn't really realizing that back then. And then I had one of the most influential people or women, let's say woman, because today is International Women's Day, was my history teacher, and she was teaching history in school, like the history that was sort of like prescribed, so to speak, by government. But then some kids were coming back to her home in the evenings and we were drinking tea and she was talking to us about real history. And so kind of like that's how it all started. And I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to see the world. And that's how the culture and languages, comes into play. And then I always envisioned myself to be a businesswoman. And so that's kind of like another element placed to it. And so at some point, when the borders got opened, I started traveling, seeing the world. And as many young people, when you start, industry is not my first business. When I did start the business, it was all about, okay, let's go, let's make money, you get on this train, but, you make money, and if you don't really have purpose, it's money goes in, money goes out, and, it's not working out. When I did come to US, I went to get my MBA, and it's just sort of like started even going faster. But at that point, I was already in my 20s, and as many business people, we start getting business coaches, business, advisors, and I had a few. And I was very lucky because one of them started talking to me in the way that, what, you can see it's something is wrong. You really need to sit down, pull back, and start thinking who you really are, why you're really here. And one of them introduced me to Rumi poetry. Another one introduced me to one of the books that very dear to me, Viktor Frankl, The Man in Search of Meaning. I don't know, I'm pretty sure many of you guys probably read this book. And then there was a trip to India that was about months and a half traveling around India by myself, backpacking. A lot of my friends think I'm slightly crazy. At that point, Ad-Astra was already in works, but it was very different Ad-Astra. And so here I was traveling around India, doing lots of journaling with this with the Franco in my pocket, with the book of Rumi poetry, who is also refugee Afghan, refugee of 13th century. And as I was really doing lots of reflection of my past, things started, sinking together. And then I started realizing, wow, I am in communication industry for a reason. Because if you go back, I come from the Soviet Union. Communication was very limited back then. And my family, as many of us who come back from Soviet Union, we come from very dysfunctional families. And the kids of dysfunctional families, we struggle with communication. And then, of course, I always wanted to travel, and once I started traveling, I didn't know how to do it. And if I have a lot of stories, I still do not know how I survived when I went on my first international travels. And I would always end up in these communities of people that helped me, whether it was health related help, or I would lose the luggage, or I would lose my passport. And all those different people in different communities, they saved me, quite frankly. And then I realized that a lot of them struggled, and the reason why they were struggling is because they wouldn't have access to information the way that we have. And this voice that they need to have in their communities is crucial. And then it's kind of like all sync together, and I realized, wow, and that's where I am, and that's what I'm doing, and that's where the purpose is. And once I realized that the purpose in business is more important than this rush to make money, and then I got back and we kind of revision our mission and vision statement with our team, and then things change. And since that, Ad-Astra is Ad-Astra that people know Ad-Astra today. That's
That's
my
the story.
journey in short.
Well, thanks for walking us through the journey. I really appreciate it. Very interesting. You're such a resilient woman. Having to go through what you've gone through to go through the journey of, a lot of people go through life, they don't find themselves, and you sound like you had a lot of reflection and you found your calling, your purpose, the cause that you started at Astra, and the cause of how you started at Astra, which is and it goes beyond that, as you mentioned earlier. It's finding what is truly important to individuals, and what's important to you, obviously, is connecting people, which is a I've seen that in a variety of communication that you and I have had. I've seen that in a variety of marketing pieces that Ad Astra puts out. It comes out as a message, as a theme in everything you guys Ad Astra does. So one of the question, I guess, on people's mind, for people who don't know Ad Astra, and you know, tell us a little bit more about the company itself.
The first thing I'm going to mention that it's the company of incredible people, because everybody who works for Astra is we really care about what we do. And even though I always say that financial statements are important, we are for profit. We are there to make money. That's the truth of it, because we all have families, we all have bills to pay, but we also really do care about what we do. We have people who came and left because that's not their cup of tea, but we also have people who came and stay, and they've been staying with us for 10 years. We have people who we have their significant others that work for us now, and we have people who brought their kids, not just my kids who work for me, but we have kids of our employees that working for us right now, and that tells you something. Because the way that we look at it, we prefer to run the operations as if we are non-profit, because again, we are very purpose driven, we are a very mission driven company, but at the same time, we really do care about our financial statements. Because to me, it's I like to put the analogy to it that when we go to school to get education, education is broader than just grades and tests, right? Education help us to look at the world different, to start thinking differently. At the same time, we care about our grades because our grades show us where we are doing well, where we need some improvement, where we need some tuning up, etc. The same is financial statements. They're showing us how well the company is doing, which areas we need to make some improvements, which areas we probably need to, maybe something that we do not need to, some areas we need to take off and do not explore anymore. And the same is with financial statements and companies and business, right? That's how we view ourselves. That's what the industry is about. And we the people, when we screen people to join us, we screen them for values within our culture, because again, culture is that our organizational culture is number one sort of step for screening to join. And then again the purpose, the what we bring to our communities. We're very community oriented organization. When we decided to start it, we thought that working with already established linguists, it's important because it depending on the project, of course. But also, it is important to go and find people who are not aware even about our industry. Introduce them to trainings, because we develop lots of different trainings, and train them and introduce them to what we do, and let them start through scratch, from scratch, I should say. And then we have people, we have linguists who've been working with us for 10, 14 years. We had an event for February 14th. It was a concept of love globally. And the same people that came, I saw the same faces 12 years ago. It was the music to my ears to see how close we are.
So how many employees do you have, or do you have employees, or how does your model work? Do you have internal employees, I'm assuming, and you have external employees? And my understanding is you offer, just for our audience, at Astra, it's like a one-stop shop for web content creation. I'm reading from your website, by the way. Creation services, professional translation services, and linguistic support services. So you offer a gamut from creating the content to transforming the content. So I'm assuming you have a network of freelancers and you've got a core employees that works for you. And by the way, I am located in Canada. I just found out you have an office in Montreal, by the way. If I wasn't on your website, I wouldn't have found that out. Maybe this conversation can help tell people that you are part of the Canadian industry from a language perspective. So that's great.
Thank you. And our website is in works right now, so I just want to make sure that we are going through major rebranding, and in the middle of April, our new brand is coming out. So I'm very excited to see that. But to answer your question, yes, we acquired a Quebec-based company in 2020, and so that's when we started operations in Canada. Other than that, our business model is that yes, we position ourselves as one shop solution for language access. And currently, our headquarters are in Washington, D.C., and we have a Canadian office. Then we have office in Cordoba, well, Argentina, because we have also have a very strong team in Cordoba, but then people working around Argentina, and then Egypt. But other than that, we have a lot of people across the world, in Asia and other, in Philippines. So the way that company is set up, that we have full-time employees, we have contractors, and have freelancers. Depending where the contracts are, we are able to move people from each position. So if we win a larger contract, we will be able to move contractors into full-time employees or part-time employees. If the contract finishes, we will be able to move them into contractors. And then, of course, there is a pool of freelancers that is always available to move either contractors or full-time employees, that allows us to shrink or expand depending on the workflow.
And Elena, you personally located in California somewhere, isn't it?
I personally in Washington D.C.
Oh, you're in Washington, D.C. For some reason, I thought you were in San Francisco, and I was booking this call, and I thought, is this going to be too early for you? I'm glad you told me you're in Washington, D.C. I feel better now. I feel like I woke you up early, and you're you're on the phone early. So
No, I love San Francisco. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. But no, I'm in DC. I'm very pleased to be here. I've been based here for 24 years.
good for you. Now, one of the topic that, well, the actual topic that we want to talk about today, after we got to know Charlotte a little bit, and the audience got to know a little bit about your company, is the communication issue when it comes to immigration. And you and I have exchanged some notes on this one prior to our call. Tell me, you can tell the audience, obviously, tell us why this issue is important to you.
Well, and again, not to get political here because everybody has their own opinion nowadays about the crisis on the southern border. To us, this topic is well, we've been working on the government contracting since the very start of the Ad-Astra. We are based in Washington D.C. 60% of our revenue or more comes from government contracting, and then of course the way that we look at it is there are lots of people who need help there. And no matter what the opinion is at the moment, my personal opinion, and I can speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure that my team would agree on that, is similar to how medical professionals look at their patient. You know, we do not look at where the person comes from, what their religion is. When the person when a patient needs a help, doctors go and assist. Our profession is the same, right? There is a need for communication there, and if the objective of our profession, in my opinion, is to facilitate the communication, because and facilitation of communication is to reach consensus. Without communication, the consensus will never be reached, right? And so we are needed there, whether it is at Astra, whether it is any other communication company with the emphasis on language access. Without us being on the front lines, this crisis will never be resolved.
So, in your opinion, is there's a problem right now? It's a called communication problem. That's what I'm hearing you say. And is Ad Astra currently involved in solving the problem? Do you have any of your staff helping, or is this something you hope to do? Where are you right now?
So I obviously cannot go into like details of the contract for the confidentiality reasons because we signed NDA with the government. Uh, but we have been working on multiple contracts, government contracts, but
Mhm.
related to southern border crisis.
And is this going okay? Are you needing people? Do you have enough staff to cover it? The problem seems like, from what we see on the news, I mean, the problem seems to be massive, and I don't know how much coverage your company is offering, but I'm assuming we need more to offer the solution here.
On our end, we are good with. In the beginning, it was complicated because you probably know that we are not the only company that has those contracts. There are a few others. Um, in the beginning, it was difficult because only cleared linguists are allowed to work on those contracts, and it all started after pandemic, and probably everybody aware that after pandemic there was a bottleneck in several government agencies to put people through clearance. So that was a little bit complicated. But then, as operations were moving forward, and as soon as you have enough cleared linguists, things become easy. And as you already mentioned in the beginning of this interview, that we have people who stay with us for multiple years, so we didn't have a problem with clearing people and then they would leave. So we have the same team working for several years, and I'm very lucky on to say that our project management team is superb. They've been done a fantastic job on both vendor management side and on the project management side when it comes to
Hmm.
scheduling, when it comes to identifying the gaps in time frames, because again it's 24/7 operations, it's weekends, nights, days. um, so even though it's a challenging operational process, but once you have talent who knows how to address it, it it becomes easier.
So, is your solution now being provided on location, or is it provided virtually? How are you providing a solution right now?
Right now, it's all virtually through OPI solution.
And is that is that through, is it reaching the individuals directly, like the individual who are impacted? I'm a migrant. I'm coming from El Salvador. I show up at the border somewhere, and somebody is talking to me in English. Obviously, not the whole world speaks English, and contrary to common belief, there's a big demographic, a larger demographic of people don't understand English or don't speak English, and so the lack of that communication is very, very important as a barrier to break it down. So this is where I'm just trying to rationalize it for our audience. So let's say the government officials needs to communicate to a migrant, and you guys facilitate that, I'm assuming.
Yes, we provide telephonic interpretation to the government. So there are several ways that we work. And again, there are several contracts that set up for that by the government. Um, it is in our case, it is initiated by the government, but we also work. We are also being contacted by various legal um, firms, because once people cross the border, if they're filing um, paperwork on their own, so they might hire attorney, legal help. So we are also being contacted by their families
Hmm.
on here on the US side when they're going through their paperwork, because I guess at that point they're already aware that we are the agency that works in this vertical. But going back to your question, when they're crossing the border, of course they don't have their own means to contact anybody. So that's the help that is being provided by the government.
Hmm. Now, so that the industry is going through, and we've done many podcasts on this one. The industry is going through a lot of changes, technological changes, process changes, and the demand is changing as well based on the technology that we're going to be employing in the future, in our currently and in the future in the industry as well. So, how is this whole technological shift in the industry is affecting you as a person and at Astra in general?
We are very technology driven, and we are embracing AI everywhere we can. I do believe there was a very good article that was, I think it was in September, that was, I think it was Guardian. I think it was circulated around our industry quite quite a lot. I cannot remember off my head who was a reporter, but it was, I remember it was written by Guardian. So I think it was very good explained there that AI and the technology should be used with the caution, particularly when it comes to immigration, and it was explained why. So, in my opinion, again, I'm not against. I'm all for it. We just need to be very careful how we are going to be implementing it, and when, and in which areas.
That's right.
So, like for instance, in our case, when we are training our interpreters to work in different fields, that the reason why we have different training, right? When we are training medical interpreters, we have special training for medical interpreters. When we have legal is different to medical. And
Mm,
then when we are training our interpreters for this particular project on southern border, for instance, or any border for this matter, we develop a training and it's different. And when we talk to our interpreters and ask them, oh, how was your case? How did it go? And of course, when they communicate to our project managers, explaining, okay, so there was this, something went wrong or something, because we also evaluate complaints or we evaluate concerns from the interpreters. We have to sometimes explain to the government if there is something went wrong or right. We have our internal processes that we need to take care of. And then of course when we are looking at it, we can see that well, technology wouldn't be able to handle the situation, because as you probably know, interpretation is not word by word, right? And sometimes we have to work on how we are going to paraphrase the question if migrant is not understanding it the way that it was said. So, and then we have to work with the officer and make sure that the communication is actually
mhm,
happening and there is a understanding.
mhm.
So,
So, but
or
that's
how we
that's
integrate
you,
technology.
yeah, the very important point to bring up, because most companies now are looking at AI in terms of where can I use it? Am I going to be able to use it in every application? Not likely. But the technology is changing on a day to day basis, so it's not stand still. It's evolving rapidly. So the question is, have you used AI? And from an innovation perspective, you don't have to specifically state where it was, but from an innovation perspective, have you played around with it in your company? Did you install any? You don't. Again, we don't need to be specific, but how's that feeling for you on an innovation side?
Good. We're evaluating several solutions.
And is that you're seeing like productivity improvement? You're seeing customer adoption higher?
Um, Correct. Yes. I mean, there are several areas where we are implementing it. Uh, it's not necessarily customer front. We are integrating a lot of AI in our
Back end
internal
process.
operations, and I should say that productivity definitely going up. We've been integrating AI in business development, marketing, for sure. We are playing a lot with reporting systems, so
Mhm.
I'm very pleased with this.
Oh, great. Now let's shift gear a little bit, and if you don't mind, since you are a business owner, you're involved in the industry. You've developed a very successful company. What is your view on the localization industry? I love that to ask that question, just to get like 100,000 foot level kind of an answer. What is your view on the localization industry currently, and where do you see the future?
Um, like a lot of us, there are lots of questions, and I am staying positive. And I'm very excited where we are going with this. Of course, it's going to change, but in my opinion, anything that is changing right now is going to be changing for the best. Are we going to lose some jobs? Yes, but at the same time, we are going to develop new jobs that are going to be developed around AI. And the most important thing here, I think, to stay relevant and see where it's all going, and make sure. In my opinion, when we are integrating technology, the point is not just integrate it for the sake of integrating it, but
Mhm.
identify the area, like what is the problem that we are solving with the technology. Let's identify the problem, let's identify the niche, and then put that solution into that problem, rather than just jump on this whole bus and say, okay, I'm just going to go with AI because it sounds cool, and that because everybody else is going there.
No, you bring up a very good point, because you're absolutely correct. But a lot of people, though, I'm not sure if you agree with this statement, but there's a lot of people, Elena, would think there's nothing wrong, everything's going well. I'm doing my job. Things are going, I'm productive. Customer likes me. Revenue is good. Profitability is good. I don't need to do anything. But that could be a mistake too. Do you agree?
Absolutely, yes. I, everything evolves. Nobody stays the same. If you can see, like everything that was happening 2 years ago, we are already all different. So if you want, like I always say that it's not the strongest that will survive. It's not the fastest that will survive, but those those that the most adaptable
That's right.
to the external environment that will survive. I didn't say that, Darwin said that.
No, no. I mean, but you bring a very good point because if you're not adaptable, that means you're not changing, and if you're not changing, that means somebody else is changing and is getting better than you, and they're going to grab more market share from you. So you either adapt, and like there's a saying right now going on in the industry after so many conversation with many people who are on the mergers and acquisition side. There's a lot of conversation about people selling their companies, right? So because they see this wave of technology changes, and we both agree that our industry don't like change. In general, we don't like change as an industry. And when an industry, and by the virtue, and I'm not just saying that, by the most of our technology that we're adopting right now, those are innovation that were not created within our industry. They came from outside the industry, if you know what I mean. Because the markets and the people that they're consuming our services, that they're using our services, they either have issues with the way our service is being delivered. And I'm talking about us as an industry, not as an individual company. Either we're not fast enough, or we're too expensive, or we're not delivering exactly what they want. And the industry for many, many years, for 20, 30 years now, been saying, hey, look, we're doing things according to our professional code of conduct. This is how we do things in the translation world. And the consumer is saying, there must be a better way to do this. And I give an example, and I've given this example many times. This big YouTube personality who's been using, the localization industry to localize their YouTube channel, and at some point they got fed up and they opened their own AI company that does, video localization. So the point I'm trying to say here is, if we don't change as an industry and individually as companies, either there are two solutions. Unfortunately, I gotta have to say this: either we sell the companies or we change.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And if you think about this, all those companies that are bringing the technology or new solution to our industry, they are also doing it with the help of our industry, right? So, I mean, they would not come up to all of the solutions without us already being here. And so that's the reason why I say that it's either we change or we go out of business.
Yeah, that's right.
And to me, um, to me, all those things that happen, it's good stuff. Let's just take it and see how we can improve ourselves to get to the next level.
Correct.
Because I mean, nothing to me. Every single change that happened, it happened for the best. If you look back, can you see anything like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 10 years ago? It's all this progress happened for the best.
That's right.
And so now it's AI revolution, right? It's here, it's not going away, it's already here, just the way that we had electricity that came and changed the whole world, but it changed it for the best. And then it was industrial revolution, I mean, go back to agricultural revolution. So we all progressed, and it's just getting better and better.
That's right.
So
That's
now
right.
let's see how we can get AI. And so, of course, I mean, it's not going to be translation in the way it was translation, and we will evolve. And translators will, we already know translators are going to turn into language specialists, and maybe not even language specialists, maybe it's going to be cultural experts. So
Hmm.
what we are going to be doing most likely, we are going to be taking AI, we are going to be creating content with AI, or maybe our clients are going to be having their own AI, and we are going to be consulting them from the cultural standpoint how to create this content, or how to manage or edit those content from the cultural standpoint. There are so many different areas that we are going to be relevant.
100%, I agree with you because after so many conversations we've had on the topic on this channel, um, everybody concludes that there are many opportunities and there are challenges. And of course, there's challenges, but there are more opportunities than we seem to think at the first glance. When people dig into it and start to understanding it and really understand what the opportunity that this new technology that we're talking about presents to us as companies and as industry, people are realizing, man, this is not as bad as it is as it thought to be, and there's a lot of possibilities here. Maybe creating new services. I hear, like what you mentioned earlier, like language consultants. That's one area that we probably using the translator as a translators back then. Now they have to guide the technology and shape the technology to produce exactly what human wants to consume. At the end of the day, technology is as good as the person who programmed it. And AIs, it's one of those. There's a saying in data, we called it garbage in, garbage out. So if you feed it the wrong data, you're going to end up with the wrong translation or the wrong output. And so that efficiency in the way we are going to use the technology and adapt to this technology and feed it the right information, it's absolutely important to continue shaping the technology, number one, and B, as consumers of this technology, to be end up at least seeing some good results out of it.
Yes, absolutely agree with you. And we already look how technology improved us. I like to bring in this analogy that we were having. We had technology that came that it replaced our muscles. Then it started replacing some parts of our brain, um, and it's still doing it. But you know what? It will never replace our heart, right? And we are in communication and we are in creativity, and having that heart in operations will always be there. And that's why using AI with knowing that we are putting our heart there as an expert, that will always be there. And that's how we can position ourselves as a company, as experts, as a personal brand. So I'm very positive about where we are moving with this.
Absolutely. Now, Elena, for our audience, what is the major takeaway you like them to take away from our conversation today, from your perspective, to consider this conversation to be a successful one? So you must have some goals that you like the audience to understand here.
I think for all of us as an industry, I think we should stay positive and we should just remember what we are here for. We are here for connecting communities because the world is bleeding right now. If you think about it, there are so many different conflicts around the world, and let's just remember that our purpose here is to connect those communities, not to separate them.
As an industry, correct. You're absolutely correct. I mean, there's Translators Without Borders. There's many associations in our industry that does that. And you brought up a very good point that we're in business to make money at the end of the day, but there is a balance, as you mentioned earlier, between making money and doing good for the community. And the two could be combined in some cases within reason. Obviously, everything in life is a balance.
Well, if you have a purpose and if you're doing the right thing, I promise you money will come.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. Because nobody wants to go into a business and put loans on themselves or borrow money from investors to open companies, then all of a sudden offer their services for free. Um, goes against everything we know about business, I guess. But at the same time, there's a balancing act too. If you become successful and you can afford to volunteer, you can afford to contribute to something that is humane and supporting one another. I think this is the key here. I'm understanding correctly.
I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. So I wanted to make sure that we give you the opportunity at this point. If anybody wants to get a hold of you or get a hold of Ad Astra, how do we reach out to you?
Um, we Well, our new website is going to be launched in the middle of April, April 22nd. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, you can find us on LinkedIn, our current website that is not so fantastic, but it's still there. And I'm sure that social media is there at Astra Inc. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if you're ever in Canada, I would love for you to say hello and see you perhaps face to face. And if I'm ever in DC, I'll look you up.
Please, absolutely, come over, and I will definitely will be in Canada soon.
Yeah, we have our office, like the company I work for. Not when I'm doing the podcast. That's the other one. It's we're actually neighbors. We're not far. We're a couple of streets up. So yeah, if you're ever in Canada, let me know.
Absolutely, looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. And for our audience, hey, I want to thank you all for listening into this conversation today with my guest, Elena Petrova. Thank you, Elena, for joining me today. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to meet you. Great conversation at Astra and getting to know Ed Astra, getting to know you personally. Talk about the immigration and how are we helping, supporting these communities as an industry. It's a great cause. I think we all should be supporting of that. And Elena, again, thanks so much. For our audience, hey, thank you for joining me today on another conversation. If you like what we do, please like, share our content. We really appreciate that. And if you have any suggestions, comments for future episodes or comment on existing episodes, would love to hear them as well. Elena, any final thoughts before we close the recording?
Thank you very much, and let's keep staying positive and changing the industry for the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elena, one more time. Appreciate it. And to everybody, this is Robin Ayub and Elena Petrova signing off for this episode. Appreciate it.